So what causes elevated joint line? Bone loss from the distal femur. So what are the causes of bone loss? There are various causes which we have seen already. So symptomatic joint line elevation, if elevation is more than 8 mm in PCL substitution, if it is PCL retention more than 4 mm or 3 mm causes symptomatic. So what are the symptoms? So there will be anterior knee pain, decreased range of movement, patella bar, mid-flexion instability, patellar tendon impingement and accelerated wear. So you can see that in the picture here, symmetric versus loose in extension. If it is loose in extension, so adding thicker poly is not the answer. So knee will jab in flexion as the flexion gap will become too tight. So the solution is to tighten the extension gap by lowering the joint line by adding distal augmentation block. So loose in flexion, as was discussed. Loose in flexion, increased flexion gap, as was very clearly pointed out. We have to use the asymmetrical posterior augments by increasing the flexion or increasing the femoral. So what we commonly do in revision, coming to the fundamentals, we should never undersize the femoral component. So undersizing the femoral component, decreased anterior posterior dimension, enlarged flexion space, oversized poly, excessive femoral resection. So then if you see that now, there is always a confusion between to choose the C or choose the D when we take out bone like this. So whenever you have this type of confusion, what we have to do is you take out the removed implant and corresponding size of the implant of the newer implant, whichever you are using, ignore the residual bone, try to visualize the original anatomy and then go back to that size. So then the answer was, if it is size C or size D, it is size D. But if we choose size C, then probably we will increase the flexion gap. To match that, we'll put something else and it may not be good for the patient. This is typical elevated joint line, undersized femoral component. So with this, there is a classification for instability. Type 1 bony deficiency, 1B is a secondary malposition. A lot of cases what we get is secondary malposition, means it was proper at the initial surgery, but it is malposition due to subsidence of the implant, that is aseptic loosening. The second type 2 is a ligament insufficiency, type 3 is a total deficiency. So type 1B is ligament balance was originally present, knee was well functioning, but now when patient comes with aseptic loosening, it is not functioning. That means ligament is intact. So joint line in extension, we come to, these are the landmarks, distance of medial epicondyle, adductor ratio, fibular head, old meniscal scar, accuracy of primary resection. So joint line in flexion, overall size of the femur, anterior posterior offset. Joint line in rotation. So we have to put the posterior augments asymmetrically, because when you see this, as was very clearly told that the varus valgus or semi-constrained implant have a bigger post, there is no room for rotation. If there is no proper rotation, there will be impingement of the post. You can see this type B. Compare the previous implant and present implant, and then with the semi-constraint, in spite of the obesity, we can come to with the semi-constraint implant without proximalizing the joint line. This is similar again. So first thing is to determine the tibial platform, then build on it, and distal femur we should not undersize and maintain the proper joint line. These are similar cases. You can see that whenever we see whenever we put the sleeves, we have to put the higher size sleeve, check in the CM, because in the augment whenever we are not putting the sleeve, augments can help us. With the sleeve, sometimes we are forced to put that size, that femur. When the sleeve